WrestleMania 42 is one of the best WrestleManias I've ever seen, and that's just in front of the cameras. What happened behind the cameras gives us an even clearer story about the future of the WWE. I'm going to go through every match and share plenty of backstage information that you will not hear anywhere else, so let's jump in. The edict from Nick Khan was simple. This is going to be the first show without Vince McMahon and we want the entire world to know it. That's why the phrase the Triple H era was mooted about 5,000 times. That's why the phrase finish the story was mentioned about 5,000 times. It's also one of the main reasons that Triple H was so insistent on making sure that the kickoff panel had very few aged former wrestlers like Jerry Lawler and instead wanted current wrestlers like Big E and CM Punk who were simply injured at the time. Triple H also insists in spotlight for people like Michael Cole, who've really put the years into wrestling and the WWE, and this is one of the reasons that we have Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, a close friend of Triple H's, and Corey Graves working the commentary for both nights. The first match was Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch, and this was designed to be a changing of the guard match. The era of the horsewomen is over, and now instead of looking at the four horsewomen dominating everything, one, there's one less of them, and two, they're not the ones winning all the championships, though they are still in and around that picture to try and put other people over. Charlotte's out anyway at the moment, and for Rhea Ripley, there's plenty of people waiting for the opportunity to take her on. Becky Lynch was very emotional by the end of this, but this is knowing that a pretty big moment is coming for Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins as regards their contract situation. Both of their contracts are up in June, and at this point in time, they have not signed new deals. Certainly if they're going to go, this was a hell of a way to go out, putting over Rhea Ripley on the way, and it looks like Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair have a date incoming for history. The tag team ladder match was up next with 6 different teams. Judgment Day were going into this as tag team champions, but their position has never been particularly strong. Judgment Day were not first choice for tag team champions up until this period. Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso were champions for a very brief period before Triple H realised that it was better to have faces chasing heels rather than heels chasing faces. The Judgment Day's only real job was to lose, and they did so with aplomb. The idea being that they could be heated up very quickly with events that happened the following day. As regards the winners, A-Town Down Under were one of those teams who's been very well respected behind the scenes in WWE, even not outside in front of everything, but also in general, a report stating that they were going to be pulled at the last minute and then they won the tag team championships. That was a good moment for wrestling journalism. Awesome Truth, of course, won the other set of tag team championships, and the reason these championships were split was essentially because over the last few weeks, over the last few months, Triple H has been trying to rebuild the tag division, and he now feels confident that there are enough tag teams to fight for 2 sets of gold instead of just the one. The tag team match of Rey Mysterio and Andrade versus Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio follows, and there isn't too much to say about this one beyond that Carlito has had to watch Rey Mysterio do everything possible to avoid calling on him, and the reason this storyline is happening is because unfortunately it looks like Carlito has not proven too reliable so far in the WWE. Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso was unfortunately my worst match of the event. The two men have been working together to try and put a good story together, and it was ideally meant to echo the I Quit Hell in a Cell match way back when between Roman and Jey. While this was supposed to be Jey's Bloodline swan song, it felt inconclusive, especially knowing what was going to happen on the next night. I don't want them to come back to this, but I suspect we're going to see a lot more of it in future. The Bloodline seem likely to move over to Raw alongside Jey in the draft. Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair and Naomi face Damage Control's Asuka, Kairi Sane and Dakota Kai next. This match was designed in a way to protect a number of people. Dakota Kai is only recently back from injury, and while she's been in quite a few matches, they're still warming her back up. Asuka is currently carrying an injury and needs some time off to recover it, but still wanted to be at WrestleMania. In addition, Jade Cargill has only really just debuted and doesn't at the moment have too much confidence in herself, it seems, to actually go out there and put on longer matches. She did debut in the Royal Rumble where she was going to be pretty well protected, but over the last few weeks, the WWE have been increasingly confident in the skills of Jade Cargill and has paired her with Bianca Belair and Naomi because they've got the talents needed to bring the best out of her. WWE have given rave reviews for Jade Cargill's performance. The Intercontinental Championship match is up next, and there is no match that deviated more from its original intended formula than this one. The original intention was for Gunther to defeat Brock Lesnar, and then quite possibly on the Raw after Mania, Ilya Dragunov's call-up would have coincided exactly with Gunther. That isn't what happened because of the unavailability of Brock Lesnar, so instead Sami Zayn was drafted in to take the loss. Over the last few weeks though, the WWE have noticed a crowd reaction to Sami Zayn, which is beginning to turn a little bit against him. They decided to give him a big opportunity here, and I'm very excited to see where he goes. Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable seems to be coming up next. This is a moment that genuinely surprised me, and when you look back in future at WrestleMania 40, moments like these are the ones that you're going to remember. One thing you're not likely to remember, though, is the main event of night one, the tag team match between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus The Rock and Roman Reigns, and this match was incredibly slow. The Rock might be back and he might be working on his fitness, but I cannot claim that he's fighting fit when this is the highest pace that he can achieve. Particularly the segment where they were fighting through the crowd, very Attitude Era style, and undoubtedly The Rock himself was very involved in the production of this match, but you could see that he was blown up and gassed out very quickly, and had to be compensated for very heavily. By the end, the match had lasted 45 minutes, and I have to say about 10 of them were genuinely interesting. It's one of those where I feel The Rock was overindulgent in every possible way. The idea was simple. Cody was supposed to look like he could not possibly beat Roman Reigns, but The Rock was the one who pinned him. This long term will lead to The Rock versus Cody Rhodes, and subsequently The Rock versus Roman Reigns. I'd be very excited for that for next year's WrestleMania, but for now, this did very little for us. Night 2 started hot with Drew McIntyre challenging Seth Rollins in a match that started so hot and so intense that Seth Rollins was checked out immediately afterwards in case he had a legit knee injury. Seth's story at this year's WrestleMania has mostly been focused on Cody Rhodes and not being focused on Drew McIntyre. Now, distractions aplenty have kept the eyes away from Damian Priest, which is what made this so effective. Even though Damian Priest basically knew he was going to be cashing in by Survivor Series War Games, it's just at that time he was going to be cashing in on CM Punk. Ironic then that it was Drew McIntyre instead distracted by CM Punk, which ended up in a situation where Damian Priest would cash in on Drew McIntyre. The intention seems pretty clear here. Damian Priest had 2 PLEs to defend his World Heavyweight Championship successfully, starting in France against Jey Uso, and then when we get to Clash at the Castle, Drew McIntyre takes the gold in the build to CM Punk at SummerSlam. At this point in time, Drew McIntyre is still not signed a WWE contract, but his value has shot through the roof. He is still waiting on the confirmation of certain promises, such as a significant World Heavyweight Championship run and a PLE main event. Promises made that lead into SummerSlam will likely get him his wish, and I expect him to sign any day now. The Pride, which is Bobby Lashley, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, would take on the Final Testament, which is Karrion Kross, Akam and Reza of the AOP. This match kind of was a bit of a waste of time for everyone involved. There are concerns that the AOP are not actually ready for a spot at WrestleMania like they actually had, particularly since their return. They don't seem to be fighting as fit as they were, so they look likely to be moved down to NXT again in the draft incoming. It's also one of the reasons this match didn't last particularly long. The Pride picked up the win, mostly due to Bubba Ray Dudley as a special guest referee. This was fan service for Philadelphia. It wasn't for me watching at home, it was for the crowd there, so I can't blame them for it. LA Knight defeated AJ Styles in a match that I found pleasantly surprising. The idea seems to be that LA Knight needed the reheat, whereas AJ Styles is coming to the end of his WWE contract, and as such the end of his WWE career. There are rumours that AJ Styles will be wrapping it up entirely, but I'd be interested to see him pop back to TNA for a brief, limited day contract as well. Whereas for LA Knight, Logan Paul seems to be in his near future. That was a plan that was put forward around October time for WrestleMania, but didn't pan out in the end. The triple threat for the United States Championship between Logan Paul, Kevin Owens and Randy Orton was up next, and Logan Paul seemed destined to retain for this one. Kevin Owens was put in late into the match in order to be a bridge between the styles of Randy Orton and the style of Logan Paul, and also they had, as a distraction, a Prime bottle from It's So Speed. I don't know who that is, but an RKO on a table to It's So Speed seemed to result in a pretty viral moment for the WWE, which is definitely his name. Bayley defeated Io Sky in a match that is only the start of her subsequent feud with Damage Control. Kairi Sane and Asuka are also getting their eyes on Bayley, but Dakota Kai will be the one who really benefits from this particular feud. Wherever Bayley goes in the draft, expect Dakota Kai to follow, because endgame seems to be Bayley losing the championship to Dakota Kai. We're now on to the main event, and my word is there a lot of news for this one. Cody Rhodes finished the story and pinned Roman Reigns 1-2-3 thanks to a lot of help. This was laid out like a comic book movie, this was laid out like the Avengers, this was laid out like the final revenge, and it didn't even have all of the parts that the WWE were originally looking for. Jimmy Uso was always going to be bounced out by Jey Uso, and that is the only thing that didn't change throughout the course of putting this match together. When Solo Sikoa got involved, John Cena then got involved. John Cena with a late invite to WrestleMania, but he was more than happy to get as involved as possible. When he was said the WWE would have to invite me for me to be there, it was in fact him very carefully saying WWE already did invite me. This led to a spot between John Cena and The Rock. This, ideally, was supposed to lead into a CM Punk moment as well, leading into the three of them in some way combining, but awkwardly so. Stone Cold was supposed to come next and equalise against The Rock. There was another throwback to the Attitude Era, but instead this led to The Undertaker stepping into that role. Now, The Undertaker was not dressed like The Undertaker, and there's a reason for that. He has a YouTube channel to advertise, so he wants to look like a real guy, and if you look him up on YouTube, you'll know that that's what he is now. He's just a guy. This also involves Seth Rollins coming down. His hurt knee basically meant that Roman Reigns had to take him out relatively quickly, and he was only able to get up for the final spot, but it was a good spot regardless. With The Rock eliminated from the fray, Cody Rhodes was able to pick up the win. Long term, The Rock versus Cody Rhodes is now being hinted at, but The Rock had a stare down with Roman Reigns that wasn't shown on screen. That moment, I'm sure, will come back to haunt us all as we build towards next year's WrestleMania. Let me know in the comments what news you would like more information on so I can put that into a spoiler warning in future. In the meantime, I've been Tom Colohue. Thank you very much for watching.